Hi friends, my name is Al or Lilstarnerd. I got new paints. They are the Liquitex Acrylics. This is fluorescent red and fluorescent pink. I have been wanting to kind of flesh out my acrylic collection better and be more curated with my color selections. I had a gift card, so I went to get some versatile, useful acrylic colors to really give my palette some body. I left with neons. This isn't totally out of left field, to be fair. I love highlighters. I've used them forever. My favorite colored pencils are neons. I just got a neon watercolor set for Christmas. I love neons and adding them to things. I feel like it really makes my art more exciting. It punches it up a bit. And considering I haven't been super excited by acrylics for a while, I thought maybe having these fluorescents would kind of make me more excited, make it feel more me. So I had these fluorescents, and that was a huge starting point for what I was going to paint. Kind of. It's a whole thing. We'll get into it. For now, just grab your sketchbook, your canvas, whatever you're working on. Let's sit down. Let's have a little art session together. Let me know what you're working on. Let's work together. Let's go. So there was a whole process that went behind coming up with this piece. Obviously, I knew I wanted to use the neon paints. That was literally the point of starting this painting. So I was desperately trying to think of something that would work well, that would actually use the neons. And of course, they're acrylic paints, which made me remember the mystery art supply challenge I did, where I used acrylics on paper and I really loved the effect that had. And I wanted to try that again and experiment with that and see if I could get similar satisfactory results. So I was thinking in terms of that, I'm trying to think of something interesting to paint. And the only thing I could really think of was a vase of flowers. And while I love that stuff, I love the look of that stuff, I really wasn't feeling it today, and definitely not in acrylics. So honestly, I was really stumped. And then I also remembered another thing that I've been really wanting to try in my art. One thing that has been super popular lately in the art world online is black backgrounds. A lot of people have been doing it and I've been loving it. I've been eating it up, and I want to give credit where credit is due. So thanks to all the artists out there. Pretty much everyone is doing that right now. So I'm getting the idea from everyone. But the real reason I've been really wanting to do this, use the black background, is because of my great uncle. I've talked about him a few times. He's an artist, he's a painter, and I've been spending a lot of time with him and at his house lately. He has a lot of his older paintings hanging around his house, and there are a few that I've been so drawn to. I just keep looking at them and admiring them. I absolutely love the way they look. They all have these black, rich backgrounds. Two are these cute little white flowers on branches, and I just love those little flowers. And so I decided to include those as a little homage in this piece. But yeah, mainly the black background is very in right now, but I'm mainly capping that for my great uncle. He's the reason that I really wanted to try it, because I love those little white flowers and that black background. But yeah, because of that, I had all these different starting points for what this painting could be, and I still had no idea what to do. So I was desperately trying to come up with something until finally I was okay, what do I like to draw? What do I enjoy doing? And I was oh, you know what? I love birds. So let me just paint some birds. And so I painted birds. These birds are a bit of a twist on the Florida scrub jay, I think. I'm not 1,000% sure it's a scrub jay. I forget. I'm pretty sure it's a Florida scrub jay. Don't know. I found a few different bird photos I liked with good poses and composition and stuff, and I stitched a bunch together in Photoshop to figure out the composition. I thought I would change up the colors a lot and just use those birds as a base for anatomy and stuff. But then I pulled out all my acrylic paints and I realized my color palette is not a sleigh. I really need to work on building and really curating an acrylic palette with colors that not only work well together, but get the job done and also are fun and cool and funky and add some style and personality. Like these neons. Because I was looking at those colors that I do have, and I was just thinking there aren't any good bird colors here, except for blue. The blue was fine. So I ended up sticking pretty close to the actual colors of the bird, although I hadn't intended to, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I tried to be a bit creative and make my own decisions, but I only had so many colors. But that's why those neons really came in handy, I think. I had a lot of fun mixing those in here and there and adding that pop of color and making it a bit different from the reference when and where I could. I didn't end up utilizing and highlighting those fluorescents as much as I had pictured or planned, but I do think the subtle use of them here and there actually worked really well. But yeah, I absolutely adore how the piece turned out. There are definitely places that I got a bit lazy. The black is a bit patchy in places. I did want the pink to show through a little bit, so I do like it. It's fine, but I was lazy. Don't look too closely at the bird's feet though, okay? Okay, they're not cute. I think I literally forgot to do them because I didn't try to be lazy about them, you know? Like I didn't actively choose to not put the effort in. I really did try and take my time with this piece overall, or at the very least, I didn't rush the piece like I tend to do. I think I did a pretty okay job of that. I was not intentional enough about it. That's okay. Next time I will try and do better about that. I kind of forgot that I wanted to take my time until I had already started the piece. So next time I want to go in knowing I want to be patient. However, like the thing about rushing, is this whole video actually wasn't even going to happen anyways. So like it's all already a rush job, you know? I'm filming this on the 7th actually because I have a minor surgery coming up real soon, which will have me out of commission for a bit. So I've been pre-recording videos. I've been trying to stay ahead for January. And I honestly didn't, so in the beginning of January, it's not like still the first week of January. And I was thinking about the fact that I was going to have to pre-record a bunch of stuff. And after doing that for December and like going so hard and getting so tired, the thought of having to do it again just sounded awful. Like the idea sounded exhausting. So I was just gonna skip a weekend in January. There would still be 4 videos in January because of the way the uploading worked out, but I would be skipping like a full weekend. I was gonna skip an upload, which in general I really try not to do, but I thought it wouldn't be a big deal. And I just didn't feel like pre-recording and working really hard to get a bunch of stuff done. But I realized I actually had a few really empty days with not much to do leading up to the surgery because I'm putting off most things till after the surgery. So I thought, let me do something real quick as a short video so I don't have to skip an upload. And it wasn't at all as exhausting as I was worried that it would be. The pre-recording wasn't that bad, especially now that I'm not editing all my videos anymore. I'm back to having an editor doing it, thank God. So since I'm not worried about editing, that just made getting this video done so much easier. Not to mention this painting was so fun to do. I was so excited to do it and see how it turned out. So of course that made the process easier. This was not a struggle of a painting. Sometimes when I do pieces just for videos, they're really tedious and really hard to do, and that was not the case this time. I loved my concept and the reference I had made, so I was really excited to see the final piece and see if I would be able to fully and satisfyingly deliver on my idea, because often that's like a real struggle for me. I'll have an idea and I can't execute it. So I was like excited to see how it turned out, and I was also excited to see if I could like enjoy using acrylic on paper. It's a really interesting process, and I really think I've only ever used acrylic on paper that one other time, as far as I can remember. I think I've always used canvas or like the canvas paper. I have heard Prickly Alpaca talk about how she uses acrylic in her sketchbook on paper a lot. She uses it like gouache, like that's how she's described it, by I think watering it down and working in layers or something like that. And when she said that, I was like, that's a lie. There's no way acrylic can work like that. You know what I mean? What are you talking about? But now I definitely get it. I don't think I used that technique. I don't think I would equate this to gouache, but I think I serendipitously stumbled across it now and then, and I can definitely visualize how that would work now. It did feel kind of like using a slightly more difficult acrylic gouache or something, which is really interesting. It was very, very fascinating to me. I think it might have blended a bit better than things like gouache or acrylic gouache. As it was still wet, I could mix those paints together really nicely. That's something I usually struggle with gouache, is getting a nice smooth blend or gradient, whereas here it was really, really easy to do, I think, if I remember right. They also layered really nicely, but I also felt that they weren't as opaque or as full-bodied as acrylic gouache paints. They definitely worked differently. I'm not honestly sure if I can articulate how. They definitely felt different, but at the same time, I would lump them together, I would say the processes are similar, but different. Obviously, a major difference is the finish that these paints have. Gouache tends to be, especially if it's nicer, a matte finish, and this acrylic definitely has a gloss, a sheen to it. I don't hate it, honestly. I don't think it's that obvious, and I don't dislike that. I don't care either way. I think I could really see myself continuing to use acrylics on paper. I also think they might be a bit more fun to use on paper than they are on canvas. Well, they're a lot more fun to use on paper than canvas. I don't like canvas. Over the last year or so, I've definitely become less and less impressed by acrylic, as I am more and more open to things like oil on canvas or gouache on paper. Acrylic kind of seems irrelevant at this point, it was kind of the worst of all the options, so why use it? But now, because this was such a fun process, maybe not more fun than something like gouache, but it was fun enough that it definitely reignites that interest for me. That's definitely something I've had a really fun time with this last year, is learning that I can take time away from mediums or spend time disliking them, and I can always come back to them and find a new way to use them. Especially after I tried using, the art supplies that I hate, crayons and oil pastels this last December, and I ended up loving them. I think I've really changed my mind about hating, quote-unquote, hating art supplies or techniques and all that stuff. I think it's okay for me to dislike something or not be interested or not use it, but I think I've changed that mindset of hating something into just, I haven't figured out how I want to use them yet. There used to be supplies and techniques and stuff that would intimidate me or seemed like I wouldn't like it, but nowadays, I'll try anything. I'm open to anything. And I'm sure with enough time and experimentation, I'll find things that don't seem enjoyable in some way, And that's been a super fun and freeing way to look at art. One thing I've taken issue with for a while is there being a right or wrong way to do things in art. Obviously, there are some quote-unquote rules that are generally accepted and should be respected. Obviously, don't steal from other artists. I would never do that. But things don't put acrylic on top of oils, don't drink paint water. There are all sorts of little rules and techniques and proper ways to do things. And some of them, obviously, you should listen to. Don't use toxic supplies in a way that is dangerous. But really and truly, what happens if I do things the wrong way? What happens if I do things out of order? What happens if I mix supplies that don't go together? What happens if I use the wrong paper for this medium? Or I waste this paint? Or I break a supply to get a cool effect? Most people that look at your final piece won't know the process behind it. They just know what it looks like, They just know the final piece. And having that mentality that I can do whatever I want and there are no rules has really taken a lot of pressure off of using complicated mediums, trying new things, all that stuff. It's made it a lot more fun for me. So yeah, the process of this piece was really nice and relaxing, and I'm excited to keep exploring acrylic on paper and keep my mind open about supplies that don't immediately excite me in the future. I can't believe it took me so long to figure out that acrylic on paper was an option. I feel kind of dumb for that one, but you know what? I got here in the end, and that's all that matters. I love her. There is a hair in it. I got my hair in it multiple times. It's all the way down here, all the way up here. It's kind of gross. It's whatever. Yeah, I am super happy with this. The more I look at it, of course, the more I find flaws. I straight up forgot to try on the feet. I guess I thought at some point I was gonna go back and fix it, and then I don't know what happened. But that's okay. I really love how it looks overall. I had such a good time with it. I love it. People always get on me for being too hard on myself because I'm never super excited about my final results, but it's really hard for me to get excited about something that doesn't feel like my own. It's hard for me to be super proud of a piece where I literally just copied brushstroke for brushstroke what someone else has already done. That to me, that kind of stuff is mainly just practice. That's just me learning, and so I don't really need to pat my back about it. It's more for picking out the flaws. But something like this is so easy for me to be super proud of and to get really excited about. Regardless of the fact that there are plenty of flaws and there are places where I didn't try that hard, I don't care. I love it so much, and I think I did such a good job. Because it's original. It's mine. I can take full ownership of it. For me, this is so much more rewarding and so much more exciting, and it's so much easier to be proud of it and be happy with it because I don't have, when someone's oh, did you do that? I don't have to be yeah, but it's not mine. So many of my paintings, people will be wow, you did that? And I have to be yeah, but no. Whereas this, I can this is mine. And that's a really nice feeling. Yeah, I just had such a good time with this. I love the way it turned out. It's very much giving grandma wallpaper. I love it. I love the gradients on the branches. That was an accident. Didn't mean to do that. I love the pink showing through the black where it's really patchy. Again, not on purpose. Just, yeah, I really, really like it. I love the composition. I had so much fun. I had a great time. If you also enjoyed, comment, subscribe, the whole shebang, let me know what you worked on. I hope you had a productive session or that you just relaxed and had a nice time. Okay, I'm gonna go buy a fluorescent art supply, go drink some water, and go do some art. Bye.